Hey guys, what's going on? This is my solo queue tier list update video. Sorry for the delay between my videos. I don't know, I guess I just didn't find time to update it, and then the new patch came out, and then the other one was delayed, and a whole bunch of crap happened, but either way, I got a nice big fat update for you guys here. Tons of changes to the solo queue tier list. I'm just going to go over them briefly for you guys. I also have done the written notes as well. They're not as long as I did before because I'm doing the videos now. So these are kind of like cliff notes of basically what I'm going to be talking about in the video about these champions, where I go into more detail about why I move these champions around. So starting off with the change log here, we have Warwick moved down in tier 1. Basically Warwick's laning got nerfed. His Q doesn't heal him for as much anymore. Which is a big deal because that was, he would just stay in lane forever. His sustainability was very high. And he could also just run up, Q you, and in that trade, say you were, let's say Ashe, and you volleyed him, he would Q you. So that damage, he would absorb pretty much and be at full HP where you got chunked for, a decent size of your HP. So that sustainability was just so good on him that just made him this incredible laner, right? But since then he's been nerfed. It's been nerfed by 20%, which is pretty big. But because of that, I'm moving him down in tier 1 from where he was before in the solo queue tier list. He's still a great laner. He's still a way better jungler. He's a fantastic jungler still. Clears it fast, clears it safe, and that's pretty much why I'm moving him down, is because his laning got nerfed a bit, and he's not a really strong laner, and his jungle got hit a little bit too, but not as much. But because of that nerf, I am moving him down. On to the next champion, Twisted Fate. Twisted Fate has been moved down in tier 1, basically because of the ultimate nerf. He's not completely global anymore. You can go from mid lane to top lane, or mid lane to bottom lane, or bottom lane to mid lane, that kind of stuff, or yada yada yada. You can jump from one lane to the other lane. You can't go full lanes, but you can go one lane to another lane. I feel this does hurt him a lot in solo queue, because one of the biggest and best things to do in solo queue is to backdoor. Backdooring is extremely powerful in solo queue. So if you're able to backdoor, like you are pushing, let's say, bottom lane, you're backdooring and pushing a lane, and everyone runs to you, then you teleport top and you keep pushing and keep backdooring. It was just so strong, and now you can't do that. You can only jump one lane at a time now. So because of that nerf, I am moving him down a little bit, not that much, but I am moving him down because of that. On to our next champion, Rumble. Rumble got moved down in tier 1 because, I can't really go into more detail than I just did. I just felt he was a little bit too high. That's about it. He's still a strong laner. His team fighting ability is very strong still. He's tanky. He's a pretty good, tanky DPS mage style, kind of like Singed or Mordekaiser. But I just don't feel he's, that crazy great. Oh my god, everyone has to pick Rumble. He's really good, but he's not that status of just he needs to be picked in every single game. So because of that, I am moving him down in tier 1. Next up, we got Jarvan. Jarvan I'm moving down in tier 1 because I feel that he's not that great of a laner anymore. All those little nerfs that he got piled up to add into quite a big nerf, I still feel he is tier 1 worthy in solo queue because of his great ability to jungle. His jungling is very quick, his ganks are very strong, and he can counter jungle quite well too. So I am leaving him in tier 1 because of his ability to jungle very well. If I was just considering his laning, I'd probably move him down to tier 2. But because his jungle is really good, I am going to keep him in the tier 1 for solo queue. On to Brand. Brand I am moving up in tier 1 because he's just so good at laning. He's the W harass, when minions are ignited and then you E them and there's a little circle, you can harass champions well. His Q does a lot of damage and it stuns. He's just got so much burst. And it's not, he does take a little skill to use, but he is quite face roll. I know that's kind of a contradicting statement, but I hope you guys understand what I mean. He's face roll in the sense that if you land everything, it's oh my god, that's so powerful, right? And his early game is just so strong. His early game laning, probably top 5 in the game. His mid game, very, very, very strong too. And his burst is very, very strong too. So if you catch somebody off guard and you just bust everything on them, you just use your ultimate, ignite everything, they're gonna die. They're probably gonna either come this close to dying or die. And that's just such a great utility to have in solo queue, is just be able to burst somebody and just almost take them out of the fight, right? So because of that, I am moving him up a little bit higher in tier 1. He's just a really strong caster right now, and I think that spot suits him a lot better. Alright, Oriana. Oriana has been moved up because of her insane utility and damage on top of great lane control. She's a solo queue boss. And honestly, I can't really go into much more detail than that. I mean, I guess I will try. The Q just does so much damage. You throw the ball out, and you can just zone people. You put the Q down, you zone them. They don't want to get close to the ball, so you're zoning them. You can deny somebody while not even denying them, if that makes sense. So your ball's here, you're here, other champion's over here, right? You're denying them from getting experience and last hitting because they're either going to take a ball hit or you're going to get the last hit. So you can just do so much. You can just control so much in the lane. And on top of that, her shield is just ridiculous. Oh my god, it just absorbs so much damage. As you pull it back, it does damage too. So there's just so much you can throw it out and then pull it back and just do so much damage. And then the W, the speed boost, is just amazing. You throw that out and you just get like a mini sprint as well. So she's hard to gank. Her lane control is amazing. Her burst is high. You know, from a Q, W, R combo, and then you throw an ignite. You can burst people down so much. Like all I can do is just say one ridiculous thing after another about Oriana and how just amazing she is. And she's just if played by someone who knows how to play her and in the right hands down best champion in solo queue, I'd say. But that's enough Oriana. Let's move on to Gangplank. Gangplank, I am moving up in tier 1 because his jungle is just, as I think I've said this like every single time, but basically he's a really strong jungler. He comes into the jungle with a red buff plus his passive. So his passive has the slow, red buff has the slow, and then it stacks with his passive and slow and his Q, and then he runs up using Raise Morale, so he's incredibly fast coming out of the jungle. Tons of damage from his passive and red buff. Tons of slow. And he gets out of, if you're going to CC him and Gangplank's running up and you're like, oh, well, I'm Cyan, I'm just going to Q him and stun him. Presses W, keeps running at you, slows you. You either burn a summoner or you die. That's how he is. He's almost like the old Nunu. You either burn a summoner or you die when Gangplank comes out. Because he's just moving so fast and he's got so much slow. And because of that, he's just an amazing solo queue champion. And then on top of that, his late game is so strong. If you get like in Trinity, Warmogs, Atmas, Infinity Edge, that kind of item stuff, you're just so tanky. You crit for like 1200 on squishies. Like he's just amazing late game. If you give the items late game, he just flows so well. So on top of having a great early and mid game, his late game scales amazing. So because of that, Gangplank is going to be moved up in tier 1. Udyr, I think I had him a little bit too low last, a while ago. But yes, his laning did get nerfed because of the Wriggles proc. It doesn't work on his Turtle Stance passive anymore. So you're not going to get those big chunks of life back. Those 500 hits. Then you're taking 12% of that. You're not going to get those big lifesteal hits back anymore. But at the same time, Turtle Stance is still amazing for sustain. Tiger Stance still does a lot of damage in lane. And you're still really hard to gank because you have Bear Stance and you're incredibly fast. So you have a shield, a movement speed increase ability, and you have a bursting ability that does a lot of damage. So, I mean, he's still a fantastic laner. And I did feel I had him a little bit low. Granted, he did get nerfed. I am moving him up because he's still an incredibly strong solo queue champion. And he's almost unstoppable in lane. And that's about it. Now on to Teemo. Teemo has been moved down to tier 2. Only because I really felt he was a little bit too high. I don't think he's really tier 1 worthy anymore. He got a couple changes, a couple champions got buffed, the meta has shifted a little bit, so Teemo just doesn't feel like he's really that tier 1 worthy in solo queue. Now granted, shrooms are amazing for solo queue, they can win games with that, but at the same time, I don't feel that he's really at that, that status of, shrooms are like winning me this game, or like, like Teemo is that big factor in your solo queue games. So because of that, I am moving him down to tier 2. He is very high in tier 2, but I just don't believe that tier 1 suits him anymore. I may be, maybe wrong. He may be still a tier 1 champion, and someone else like the Rain Man has to go play him again and show everybody that Teemo is still this godlike thing. But even though I haven't been playing against him, and Teemos just don't seem like they have that big effect like they used to since Teemo's got nerfed. So because of that, I am moving him down in tier 2. Karthus has been moved up in tier 1. I think his R is just like one of the best solo queue abilities. You don't even have to be in a team fight. You can be top, dinking around, just farming, pushing towers. See a team fight, 3 players are low. You know, they barely got out of that team fight. They just, you know, they just 3-0'd your team, but they all got like a little bit of HP. Doop, press R, triple kill, Karthus, and you're like, oh my god, that's amazing. And then everyone gets assist bonuses and all that stuff, and you know you can win a team fight from across the map. That's amazing. That's amazing utility to have. And on top of that, his Baron and Dragon control and just how fast he does them. If you set it up at the right time and you go to Baron or Dragon, you drop it. Like Karthus is like here's like Baron, right? And then here's Karthus, and then Karthus is like bend over, and Baron's like no. Like that's you know as graphic as what I just did. That's what happens. That's how strong Karthus' DPS is, because his Q does insane amount of damage if it hits single targets. So Dragon is a single target, Baron is a single target, plus you throw his wall up, which minus his armor and MR, so it synergizes so well for killing PvE stuff. Like Karthus is just so great at that. So you can be outside of a team fight and win a team fight with your R, because you just do so much damage. You can destroy the PvE objectives that, you know, give your team these great buffs and great, you know, gold abilities. And then on top of that, his laning is actually quite strong too. He can beat a lot of champions in lane. So I believe that Karthus is just really, really, really strong for tier 1. And I think we're going to see a lot more Karthuses. I'm seeing a lot more Karthuses, and they're just tearing stuff up right now. So because of that, I am moving him up in tier 1. And then now we have Soraka. She counters Karthus, so I'm moving her up in tier 1. No, not really, but her heals. I've been saying this for a while, and I've wanted to update the solo queue tier list accordingly. Basically, all the heals in the game right now, they're very strong, but Soraka's heals are disgusting. And that's how I would describe her. She's a disgusting solo queue champion, because you can be at 100 HP and she can burst heal you for like 1200, just stupid amount, right? If she gets a death cap, which is not that hard in solo queue to get, she heals so ridiculously, like just so, oh my god, like her heals are broken, like broken. Soraka is, you can carry teams just on Soraka. Soraka is the support to play in solo queue if you want to raise your elo. Duo queue with somebody that's a good carry, or if you're a good carry, duo queue with someone who's a good Soraka, and you will gain elo, guaranteed. So that's my number one advice for solo queue right now. Duo queue with a Soraka, because it is disgusting. And that's all I can really say about her, because it is disgusting. The amount you heal, the team fights you can just sway with your ultimate. It's like, oh, we just got Kennen and Fiddle ultied. Alright, everyone's, you know, all that damage is dealt came all back because Soraka's heals do so much. And that's just how I feel. Alright, on to Yorick. Yorick, I did move up to tier 1, and you guys might be thinking, well, why the hell did you do that, Elements? You know, I guess I shouldn't. I call myself Elements. That's weird to say. I know he just got big time nerfed, and at the same time, I kind of realized something, that his ability to control the lane versus champions that don't have sustain is still extremely strong. Those ghouls still do a lot of damage. His sustain is still really good. So you have a champion with sustain that has a lot of harassing and a lot of poke versus champions with no sustain and no poke, or not a lot of poke. He's going to crush those champions still. If you still have a good laning phase with Yorick, he's still really good. You can still carry games with Yorick. Like for solo queue, he's very good still. Like very, very, very good. Competitively, he's not as good. Because, you know, there's obviously ways to counter that, but lots of people in solo queue aren't going to be setting up to counter Yorick. They're not going to be like, oh yeah, whatever. You go up against Annie, or like Anivia, or any of those champions with like no sustain, you know, they can't really poke back as well. You're going to demolish them. So Yorick is still a good champion, despite his nerfs. So I really do feel like he's a tier 1 champion in solo queue, and that you can still absolutely carry your games with him. So I suggest you do that, and you try him out. You try him out versus champions that don't have the sustain, that don't have that, you know, that really good laning ability, and you'll just poop on them, and you're going to be like, holy crap, that's amazing. I can't believe that worked.